Teachers of Reddit, have you ever had a crush on a student? What happened? I'm a teacher and there are some cute seniors that I have as students. However, if you ever find yourself actually attracted to any of them, a great way to get over that is to just talk with them for a few minutes. That works regardless of age. Not me, but a friend of mine is a teacher for high schoolers. When he started, he was only 3 or 4 years older than the seniors, 17-18 years, so he said it was really awkward having thoughts where a student was attractive because he was a teacher now. He also told me that he often got gifts and love notes from students back then too. I thought one of my college profs had a crush on me. I definitely had a crush on him. Then one day he said, "Sarah, I have to tell you something." I braced myself for a sexy professor college makeout sesh. "You look just like my sister. Homp homp." Maybe he's into that kind of thing. Former student here. Throwaway for obvious reasons. So, I actually have a story related to this. I actually pursued a relationship with a teacher. My senior year of high school I was a teacher aide for one of our biology teachers. I had an easy schedule and spent a lot of my free time helping her out in her classes. She had divorced her husband a few years back and pretty much never talked about it. She was attractive and very kind. Looking back, it was stupid of me to risk something like that, but my hormones and I got the courage up to basically ask her if she wanted to hang out. Much to my surprise, she said yes. For the rest of my senior year I would sporadically head to her house and she rode my baloney pony. I never spoke to anyone about it and we never changed how we acted in school. Still keep in touch to this day. One time at junior high there was a football game that was students versus teachers and a student crushed a teacher and cracked his ribs. This is the kind of content that I came to this thread for. Nice try FBI, not today. They would never do such a thing. I had a teacher that ended up hooking up with a student, like days after graduation. I don't think he teaches anymore. I also had a student teacher invite me to a party when I was in high school. That was a nice ego booster. I wouldn't say that I ever had a crush, but there are definitely girls that are really attractive and likable. I had a lot of girls, and even a few boys who seem to have crushes on me, but it doesn't go anywhere, because I wouldn't cross that line. I had one girl walk up to me and say, "I'ma holler at you at the end of the year," and then proceed to bite her lip in a very suggestive way. I didn't even know who the heck that girl was. I had another girl who I absolutely adored come see me on the last day. I was leaving the school, but she was not in dress code at all. She was wearing 2 thin tank tops and the tiniest shorts I've ever seen. It was definitely not dress code approved, but since it was the last day she got away with it. She kept hugging me goodbye and hanging all over me, and I have to admit that I was getting a bit turned on by it. She actually followed me out to my car to say goodbye, and when we parted for the last time there was this agonizing moment of awkwardness where it seemed like she was waiting for me to give her a kiss or something. One time in the cafeteria, after I had just started teaching, I saw this beautiful teacher wearing a tight-fitting wrap dress watching over the lunch line. She looked absolutely poured into that dress, so I had to go talk to her. I went up, introduced myself and we started talking. We flirted a bit while we talked, and things seemed to be going good, because she initiated an arm squeeze on me when I made a joke. We parted after a little bit, and she walked off and sat down at one of the tables with the students. I thought to myself, that's cool, she eats with her students. I'm doing my lunch duty thing, which largely involves standing around, and every once in a while I'll look over at the hot teacher and we exchange glances and smiles. At this point I figure that I need to find out where her room is so I can drop by later and talk her up some more. I figure I can just tell her I'm going to make copies, and see if she needs anything run off while I'm at it. I'm in the middle of talking with one of my students, so I ask them, "What does that lady over there in the dress teach and where is her room?" And my student simply replies back, "She's in my French class, but I don't know her." At that point it clicks in my head that she's a student, and worse, that I've been flirting with a student throughout lunch. Mortified, I fled the cafeteria and hid in my room. I had another lunch duty the next day, but I couldn't even bring myself to go to it because I was so embarrassed. I'm dying to know what you look like because you must be hot. This was back in the late 70s, but my Sozard started teaching high school right after college. She was 21. Her first year on the job she developed a crush on this high school junior. He was 17 at the time. Anyway, they flirted and hung out after school all the time, and once he turned 18 they started dating. They are now married and have been for 40+ years. They think the story is adorable and tell everyone. As a former teaching, I cringe every time I hear it. I had the situation in reverse. The student had a huge crush on me. She arranged her classes, free time and extra projects so that we'd always be in the same area or room. As cute as she was, I was consistently careful and professional in my approach, keeping her at arm's length and showing her no more attention than other students. She was tenacious, but rather than embarrass her in front of peers or faculty, I took the long approach, wearing her down incrementally by maintaining appropriate even-handedness despite her overt gestures and expressions. Eventually, it worked. It was taxing for me, but I took satisfaction knowing that I didn't cause her to become the subject of gossip or mean-spirited speculation. Someone I know dated their freshman English teacher right after leaving high school. She had a few kids with him. One of those kids is me. My grandmother was super poor and couldn't afford to go to school, so from the age of 10 until 16, she sat outside classroom windows every day to learn to read-write in Chinese, which I guess is a longer process than learning phonetic writing systems. Full stop. She finally earned enough money to pay for some classes, and enrolled in a class where all the other students were much younger than her, ended up marrying the teacher, and then had kids who had more kids, like me. Funny thing is, she still reads on a daily basis and now knows much more about literature and the world in general than my grandfather. I am a female teacher. I have been teaching for less than 10 years. I have had 2 students who, I can't say I've crushed on them. I've certainly been attracted to them. Both were in my first few years of teaching. The students were 17-18, and the attraction to them came from absolutely nowhere. It was like being smacked in the head with a bat both times. They were both very tall, intelligent, goofy, cuddly looking gingers. I have a thing. One made a pass at me during graduation about 6 years ago. He followed me to my classroom during the ceremony when I left to change my shoes, but I firmly and politely declined and got the heck out of there. Nothing sexual or untoward ever happened, and nothing ever would because my career means a lot to me. I hear the guy who made a pass on me is now a police officer. I can't say I haven't had thoughts about him pulling me over. A hot, fit guy in uniform? Mercy. AI. It's me, a tall, goofy, ginger. Teaching undergrad uni students. I'm a PhD student. Had a crush, and did nothing. On 2 occasions however, students had crushes on me and did act. One went nowhere. For the other I waited until I wasn't teaching them anymore. Currently still going out with them. It's hot. He didn't hit on me until after I graduated. He was my school cop and taught the law enforcement class. Nearly my dad's age, and married. He is super attractive though. I would have gone to Pound Town if he didn't have a wife. Upvote for Pound Town. I teach at a community college. I had a foreign student last semester who I crushed on. To be fair, he was probably 10 years older than me. I'm young for this field. He had a sexy accent and incredible work ethic and used to wrestle at the national level, so he was in great shape. Nothing happened. He ended up being a phenomenal student, looks and accent aside, and I wrote him the most gushing recommendation letter I have ever written a student at the end of the semester, but he deserved it. Common note to self, get foreign accents to get laid. When I was a grad student teaching courses, if a student was attractive of course I noticed. I was only like 4 years older than them on average. I can't say it actually changed the way I taught to them or graded them, and obviously I didn't do anything. I will tell you that students coming onto me happened a handful of times. That was definitely uncomfortable. It was usually for extra credit. We had a professor who had just gotten his PhD and was working on his second one. The triad of tall, dark, and handsome with a South American accent. All the girls in class were very attentive. Nope. I am a perfectly ethical person who does perfectly ethical things. My thoughts are always professional. I am not just saying this because I am afraid my account is being watched. America is the best. Yay Eagles. As a kindergarten teacher, I will say no. When I taught university, however, I was in the company of a lot of attractive women, in a city famed for its beautiful women. What did I do? Nothing. Just enjoyed being around hot girls all the time. I was dating a master's student when I was in undergrad, and lo and behold, he ended up being my teacher for a class. Everyone knew what was up but no one really cared, and we didn't act inappropriate at school anyways. Looking back, I'm fairly sure that a teacher had a mild crush on me. I never actually had one of her classes, and the first interaction we had was when I was a junior 11th grade, and she was a lunch monitor. My school had decided to go with little bags of milk instead of cartons that year, and we quickly figured out that they made a really loud noise when you blew up an empty one and popped it. After a couple of these, she came over to our table and told us to knock it off, kind of singling me out in the process. After that, she always made it a point to come by wherever I was sitting in the cafeteria and wag a finger at me with a little smirk, saying that I better be good. Naturally, my senior year I didn't spend many lunches at school, but she'd still make sure to chat a bit whenever she saw me in the halls. At the end of my senior year, we were all going around getting signatures in our yearbooks. She saw me with mine and asked to sign it. I handed it over and she said she'd give it back after the next class. When I got it back, she had written a long note with a lot of the usual teacher type comments, but also a lot of compliments, including ones about me having a great combination of mind, looks, and maturity. Nothing else ever happened, but like I said, looking back on it, I'm fairly sure. Well, now you've got someone to message. Not a teacher as such, but I did deliver lectures to grad students in the institution I worked at. I ran a molecular genetics core lab, was freaking one of the students. Cute redhead. I left that institution. We got married, she graduated. 13-year anniversary this summer. 2 kids. I've crushed a student. It was awful. High school teacher here. Male, mid-20s. Most teachers will tell you that, at least to some extent, students can be your friends, especially upperclassmen with a little maturity. I have 5 or 6 students that I have pretty strong in-school relationships with. We talk daily. We aren't on first name basis or anything weird like that, but we share a lot of thoughts. This is fine and a good thing. This is how you can change young people's lives for the better. I sometimes keep in contact with these students after they graduate. One of my very first students and I go to NBA games together sometimes. We're buddies now. It's cool. Here's the thing though. You are going to have female students who are very pretty and very sweet. The older ones may even act just mature. You may fool yourself into thinking they are somehow mature enough to be in a serious relationship. There may even be part of you that thinks maybe you should be in a relationship with them. This is when being buddies with the students has gotten too far. At that point, I always take a step back and remind myself that these little suckers aren't mature. They have very limited life experiences, and though they may be great at acting like adults, they absolutely are not. They're kids. I promise you, they are. I don't care how grown up some of these girls look and act, they aren't. She may be wearing business attire to school and have the body of a 23-year-old postgrad. She may act older than her age. Don't be fooled. They're all teenagers. I can't stress that enough. Boys, when you start teaching, just remember that no matter what, they are freaking kids. Don't frick the kids. Honestly, yes. I've been a university lecturer since I was 25. All of my students are adults, mostly in the 18-22 range but often a little older than that. I'm a single man. The little crushes and attractions happen from time to time. Nothing has ever come of it directly, because I'm absolutely committed to the principle of not taking advantage of my position. Whether they're 18, 45, or anywhere in between, they are a person placed under my stewardship and care, and I have a responsibility and a duty to respect that which I absolutely will not breach. I have, however, had a brief relationship with a student who had no connection to the courses I teach. We didn't meet at the university either, we met at a party with mutual friends. She just happened to be an undergraduate at the same institution where I'm employed. I didn't see any conflicts of interest, and it didn't breach any regulations. I did check. Morally speaking, I don't think I have any questions to answer there. Well, here we go. I was the student, crushing hard on my teacher from 7th 12th grade. Super obvious. Tried not to make it obvious, but teenage brains don't work well in the area of subtlety. There was a bit of a flirtation going on from maybe sophomore through senior year. The rumor started flying around that we were sleeping together, and that rumor got around to my mother, who raised heck about it with me, assuming that the rumor was true. She was trying to protect both my reputation and my family's reputation, but it wasn't helpful since it wasn't true. Just caused a rift between us. A few months after I graduated, we had kept in touch and it finally went down. We've been together for pretty much the last 10 years. Not a teacher, but I had a teacher in high school who was in his early mid-20s who married a former student a few years after she graduated. They were maybe 5-7 years apart in age. Don't know if they reconnected or just stayed in touch after she graduated. There was also a teacher at the same school who got fired for having an affair with one of her students. Pretty sure it cost her her marriage, too. I've had a couple crushes on some high school juniors and seniors as a teacher. What happened was I am a person with judgment and self-control and not an animal, and kept that crap to myself.